Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm glad that you are tuning in to watch this video as we think through how we will worship together starting July 12th as we regather for in-person worship. Because I'm outside, I've not yet to put on my mask, but that's the first thing that I want to share with you, that as soon as we cross through that door, we encourage and require everyone to wear a mask. We do this not because we have to, but because it's the best way that we can protect ourselves in the midst of worship and protect all those that we will be interacting with after the worship service. If you have arrived at this point on the 12th, then you've already done your homework. You have assured yourself that you are not experiencing any symptoms, fever, cough, sneezing, achiness, and that you're not living with anyone who is experiencing any symptoms of the virus. You also know, to the best of your ability, that you've not been exposed to anyone who has tested positive in the last 2 weeks, so that you know that it's as safe as possible for you to be there. You're wearing your mask and you're ready to worship. So we're going to make our way into the sanctuary now. As you come in, you will see that we have sanitizing stations available. There's actually one at every entrance, and we encourage you to use them liberally. You will also immediately notice that we have roped off a number of the pews. Social distancing requires that we keep 6 feet between groups of worshipers. And the best way to do that is to use every other pew and only half of those pews. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you a little demonstration of what that looks like. But you can see as you come down that certain pews are clearly marked, both by the fact that there's access to them and that there are blue tape on the seats that show that those seats are available to be sat in. As you come in for worship, we're going to encourage you to fill in the sanctuary from the front to the back. That will allow as little as possible people crossing into the 6-foot spaces that we are required to provide you for the worship experience. So we have some friends who have met us here and have gathered for worship. Pluto and Mickey have done things appropriately. They live in the same household, and so they are able to sit together. Do take note that as you look from front to back in the sanctuary, we basically have 5 sections of pews that are available for seating. We have that same reality on the other side of the sanctuary. So we have 10 available sections, not including our choir loft. Our capacity, if we sat 4 people in every set of pews, would be about 40. If 2 or 3, then that number begins to shrink. If 1 person comes, then that number begins to shrink. So we could fit anywhere between 40 people in worship down to 10 people in worship. More likely we'll get somewhere between 20 and 30, as Mickey and Pluto have come, as Buzz and Slinky Dog have come. They are allowed to sit together because they live in the playroom together. Goofy's been a good boy this week, and he has claimed out space by himself. The thing about it is Goofy can't look over at Mickey and Pluto and say, oh, they're my good friends, I'll go sit with them. Because Goofy doesn't live in that household, he has to sit in a pew by himself. Donald back here would have loved to sit with either Goofy or Buzz and Slinky Dog, but he has come to worship by himself as well. Daisy, Huey, Dewey, and Louie were not able to attend with him. If they had been here, then this section could be filled up with 4 or more people. The important thing to note there is that if there were more people that could fit in this one section, they are not allowed to take down the rope in the center and expand over into the other section. They would need to go and sit in another available section of the pew. One of the problems we have is with our friends here, Piglet and Pumbaa. Because they are distant relatives, they thought that it would be okay for them to sit together. But unfortunately, they don't live in the same household. So in order to maintain the safe spacing distances, we would have to ask either Piglet or Pumbaa to move into another section. That's where you're beginning to get a sense of how difficult it might be at any one service to figure out the jigsaw puzzle of fitting people into the sanctuary. But we're going to work faithfully to do that, and we're going to ask you to meet us in patience. And if we can do that together, then I think that we'll definitely be able to have the worship experience that we are hoping for. I will admit that none of our visitors are particularly good boys and girls because none of them are wearing their masks at this time. But we will correct that by the time we start worship together. As we worship together now, the services are going to look a lot like they have since March as we've been live streaming our worship services, but they'll look very differently from the worship that we enjoyed prior to March. We're not going to sing together. Singing has been shown to be a super spreader, spreading the virus much further than the spoken word. We're not going to have a choir. All of our music will be instrumental, played by Marie on either the organ or the piano. We will be having some responsive parts of our worship service, spaces where you can participate, spaces where you can stand up a little bit and stretch, prayer of confession, the confession of faith, and those sorts of things. But other than that, we're going to try and keep our worship services to about 35 to 45 minutes. One of the reasons we're doing that is we're trying to keep everybody in the sanctuary for the span of the service. Any traffic out into the rest of the building will require a thorough cleaning of those areas that are entered into. Although both our bathrooms will be available, if you need to use them, you are welcome to do so. We will clean them afterwards. To minimize traffic through the building, we are going to control the number of entrances that are available. We're going to encourage most of the traffic to come in and out of the front door of the sanctuary that we came through as we entered the building, but we will have the handicap entrance unlocked for anyone who needs either the use of the handicap ramp or the lift that is next to it. Also, the door right outside this landing in case of emergencies will be unlocked. The other doors throughout the building will remain locked. Again, the hope is to control the flow of traffic through the building and to keep all of us in one general location. After you leave the service, we are going to dismiss from the back to the front, again, trying to maintain that 6 feet distance. We hope that you'll take time outside to chat with one another, but do so at a safe distance while you continue to wear your mask. But as soon as the sanctuary empties, we'll have a team of volunteers who will be going through disinfecting all of the pews, wiping down all of the doorknobs and the railings to get ready for the next worship service. Again, our goal is to have a service that glorifies God and prepares us to go out into the world and glorify God. We want to do that in a way that promotes the safety of each one of us as we gather to worship, as well as allows us to defend the safety of all of those individuals that we will be encountering in the community. We're excited at the prospect of coming back together in worship. We know that for many of you, the past few months have been very, very hard, and you've wanted nothing more than to be able to gather here with your church family. We're going to begin to do that, and hopefully over time, those gatherings will get larger and larger and larger. But the best way that we can make sure that that happens is by wearing our masks, by washing our hands, by using hand sanitizer, and by maintaining social distance, both when we're here in worship and when we're out in the community with others. We ask your participation, we ask your patience, we ask your prayers as we live into this new reality together, knowing that we will get through this together, and when we are through this, we will have one of the biggest celebrations we can possibly plan. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you on the 12th. One other note that I wanted to make: faithfulness does not equate to coming to worship just because we're open. If you have one of the conditions that puts you at particular risk for the side effects of COVID, if you care for somebody that has one of those conditions, if the thought of being in a crowd of people, no matter how large or how small, makes you feel at all uncomfortable, We will continue to live stream our 11 o'clock worship services so that you can continue to participate in the life of the church. If coming makes you feel uncomfortable, then stay at home and stay safe, and soon enough, we will all be able to be together again. Until then, may God watch between you and me while we are apart one from another. God bless you all.